Welcome everyone. We've got a mail day video for you today. This video will be part 2 on our old school budget deck build that we're making for Las Vegas, Nevada, MagicCon in September, MagicCon Las Vegas. We're gonna take this mono green budget deck with us and see how it does. So in order to do that, if you look at the previous video we did, we got pretty close to a 60 card deck and a few cards for the sideboard, but we needed several more cards to round out the tournament legal deck using Eternal Central rules. So we've got another sticker and, oh yeah, a couple other goodies in here too. This is an alpha card that we'll continue our alpha unplayed upgrades. We've got a bunch of 4th edition cards. This is a Scrib Sprites from alpha. We picked up a near mint copy Scrib Sprites. Looks like it has a crease on it. Probably from being shipped. Yeah, probably from being shipped first class. We'll try to flatten that out for you. But that's a Scrib Sprites. It was near mint. And it's not near mint anymore. I don't know if that's gonna flatten out or not, but it's not quite a crease, but it's just like a pressure. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, that's the Scrib Sprites from alpha. Looks pretty flat there. We picked up a few more Scrib Sprites, which I thought we could play in this old school deck. There's 4 copies of 4th edition Scrib Sprites. And then 2 copies of 4th edition Desert Twister. This destroys any target permanent. We picked up 4 copies of 4th edition Forests to cast our spells with. And then 4 copies of 4th edition Wild Growth to give extra green mana. An extra copy of Pendelhaven. This is an Anthologies copy, but in Legends, this legendary land taps to add green to your mana pool. It also taps to give target 1/1 creature +1/+2 until the end of turn. It's a legendary land, so it follows the legendary rules. You can only have 1 in play at a time. We previously had 1 in the deck. We also picked up a Birds of Paradise, which you hear in the background. This is a Retro Frame Dominaria remastered version. And then another playset of Bazaar of Wonders to go in our collection of Bazaar of Wonders. These are all the other Bazaar of Wonders. We'll put these right there. Those are the stack. It keeps growing. This was our old school deck that we were working on. If you recall, we were centering this deck around the Citanul Druid. Citanul Druid is a 1/1 creature, but it also gains +1/+1 for each time opponent casts an artifact. And then we put in Scavenger Folk, which is a 1/1 creature. We added the Avoid Fates from Legends. This counters target interrupt or enchantment and can only counter spells that target a permanent that you control. Giant Growth, Stormseeker. Here is our mana base, Forests, Pendelhaven, Mishra's Factory, Strip Mine, and Soul Ring. So I think we're going to put a couple more Forests in this deck. We want to make sure it has enough land to cast maybe Desert Twister, which requires 4 colorless and 2 green. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 copies of Forest. We could do 14, but I kind of also want to do, I kind of want to run 2 copies of Pendelhaven, because I think the +1/+2 ability is really important. So I want to make sure we are able to draw one of these and cast it at some point in the game, and then use it to maybe cast Script Sprites, or any of the other 1/1 creatures, including Mitra's Factory. No, that's a 2/2. So anyway, other 1/1 creatures that we could target with Pendelhaven include Emerald Dragonfly. Here's a card from Legends, 1 colorless, 1 green. It's a 1/1. It has flying, and for 2 green, you can give it first strike until the end of turn, which is pretty important if you're battling other 1/1 creatures. We will use 4 copies of Llanowar Elves to give our... We can also tap them to add green mana to our mana pool. Otherwise, they'll become 2/3 creatures if we tap Pendelhaven. Citanul Druid is obviously a 1/1 until your opponent casts an artifact. And then Scavenger Folk is also a 1/1. And then we got 3 more spots here before Titania's Song. I think these are going to be Wild Growth. Maybe I'll put in 3 copies of Wild Growth. Titania's Song is also a fun enchantment. This card turns all of your opponent's artifacts. They lose their regular abilities and they become artifact creatures with toughness and power equal to their casting cost. So if they had a Mox Emerald or a Mox Jet on their board, it would become a 0/0 creature, and I believe it would die because its toughness is 0. But anything else with a casting cost of 1 or 2, like a Soul Ring or a Howling Mine. Soul Ring would become a 1/1 creature, and Howling Mine would become a 2/2 creature, and then you could battle them with your 1/1 creatures, or pump your creatures with Pendelhaven and attack their 1/1s with your 2/3s. And Titania's Song leaves play. Artifacts return to normal just before the untap phase of the next turn. And then Sylvan Library. So this would all be kind of in our main deck. I don't think we're going to need that Wild Growth. I had 2 copies of Birds of Paradise probably in the sideboard. 4 copies of Crumble. Destroy target artifact. Artifact creatures may not regenerate. So this could be used good in combination with Titania's Song, because you can target their creatures and then they cannot regenerate. It also says the artifact's controller gains life points equal to target artifact's casting costs. So it's sort of like a Swords of Plowshares. And then we got 2 more spots. What else did we want to put in the sideboard? Urnam Djinn, Force of Nature, Hurricane. Let's keep Forest out of the, for now. Let's move Bazaar. Let's take this Wild Growth out. Desert Twister, that's what we want to put in. We're going to put 2 Desert Twisters in the sideboard. This was originally printed in Arabian Nights. Those trade for about $20, and the 4th edition ones are just, I think they're less than $1. Okay, so there's a 15 card sideboard. That's legal. We'll save this Birds of Paradise for another deck. And then we'll keep 2 copies of Pendelhaven. We'll take the Script Sprites out. We'll probably put this Script Sprites in our Alpha 60 deck. It's our sideboard, Birds of Paradise. We'll put that one right there so remember it's sideboard. And then here's our 60 card old school deck, Eternal Central. So let's shuffle this up. Let's do a quick Goldfish and see if this plays any better than the last time we looked at it, is now running 60 cards, Citanul Druid, Scavenger Folk, 13 Forests, 2 Pendlehavens, that's 15 cards, plus 4 Mishra's Factory. This Avoid Fate is a little damaged. I might have to get another set of sleeves or swap that Avoid Fate out. 1 Strip Mine. I think in some formats you can play 4 Strip Mines, but just doesn't feel like a good card to play 4 of, especially if they're not on a crazy mana base. Okay, I don't know how shuffled this deck is, but it does, with just these like perfect fits, it does feel easier to shuffle these. All right, we'll go with that. Quick 3 piles. We'll draw 7. We got land and spells. We're going to keep this one. We'll play first. Let's go ahead and put down a forest, and we'll tap that for a Llanowar Elves. Avoid the glare too. Okay, we'll pass the turn. We'll untap, we'll draw a card. We got some giant growth, that's pretty cool. Let's go and put down another forest. Let's just go to move to combat. If they don't have any creatures in play, we can tap forest and we can giant growth it and attack them for 4 damage and then pass the turn. So they're at 16, they'll do some stuff, pass it to us. We'll draw. Citanul Druid, one of our favorite cards. We'll play this Strip Mine over here. This is our graveyard. Just tap it like that. Okay, we got Citanul Druid. We can also do a Storm Seeker. Deals 1 damage to target player for each card in his or her hand, but we need 4 mana to cast that, which we could do. We've got 4 cards. Let's go ahead and do that. They took 4, so they're at 16. Let's tap Llanowar Elves for green, 2 colorless, and a colorless. We'll Storm Seeker them. Let's say they take 4 damage if they've got 4 cards, so they're at 12. Pass the turn. Untap. Draw. Good. Another Avoid Fate. That's pretty good. We counter their interrupt, so let's just cast our 1 green, 1 colorless. We'll cast our Citanul Druid. Let's say they tried to counterspell it for some reason. We can tap a forest, cast Avoid Fate, and counter their counter. Just like that. Move to combat. We'll swing with the Llanowar Elves. They will be at 11. Pass the turn. Untap, upkeep, draw. Wild Growth, perfect. Let's tap this forest for green. We'll put a Wild Growth on this forest. We will pretend they did not cast any artifacts that turn, so we'll move to combat with the Citanul Druid. And then we'll tap Llanowar Elves for green, and we're gonna giant growth Citanul Druid to take 4 damage. Put him at 7. Pass the turn. Let's say they cast an artifact, then it means Citanul Druid will be a 2/2 creature. On our next turn, we drew a Scavenger Folk, so we can tap this forest. We'll play Scavenger Folk. We can also could move to combat. We could sacrifice. We could destroy their artifact. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and so we're going to strip mine one of their lands. Let's say they've got a Mishra's Factory or something awesome like that. We can also let's tap this Llanowar Elves for green. We'll tap this Scavenger Folk. We'll destroy their artifact that gave this Citanul Druid a 1/1 counter, and then we'll move to combat and we'll swing for 2. Put them at 9, I think, something like that. We still have a counterspell backup. Untap, draw. We do another avoid fate, so we have tons of counterspells. Let's go ahead and move to combat. We'll attack for 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll do something, so we're gonna counter one of their effects. They'll get through, they'll be at 5. Untap, draw. Mishra's Factory is a great land, we'll play that. We'll swing again for 4, put them at 1. Untap, upkeep, draw. Another Citanul Druid, which is perfect. We'll tap this forest for 2 green. We'll cast another Citanul Druid. We'll tap this forest for colorless. We'll make Mishra's Factory a 2/2 creature. And then we'll just swing with the team here for the win. Awesome, that's my updates, everybody, on the Citanul Druid budget mono green deck that you can build for less than 200 bucks. Let me know in the comments if you like that deck. Also, if you like the artwork for Avoid Fate, we're gonna make this the thumbnail for the video. Appreciate everybody. We'll see you in the next video, and look for this deck in Las Vegas when we play this casually up at the tournament. Thanks, everyone.